I'm gonna see if I can do this real quick before my phone freaking dies. I think I noticed a pattern when I was like letting my phone charge. I think we moved away from everybody every time I started to like somebody, because it originally started when we lived in Georgia when my baby brother was born. I think I think that was when my baby brother was born. We moved back and forth from Florida to Georgia a bunch, but I just originally remember Destiny's Child was playing on the radio, and I had a teacher that was my favorite teacher at this school that was actually mostly melanated people, and she was my favorite teacher, and I said something about it, and I remember my mom saying that she didn't like her, and we ended up moving, so it didn't matter. Um, then it was this palm colored couple. It was actually the only couple that I never experienced any energy of like racism from. And the male was the actual first male that I actually was comfortable with, even after the issue that I had previously with her previous husband. And I remember being mad at her because she left. She When she had my baby sister, we were actually spend the night at this couple's house, and I was like, "Why would you do this to me? Like, you're putting me in a house with a man." And I thought I would just latch on to the woman and just follow her everywhere, but it turns out like he didn't make me feel uncomfortable, and he gave absolute no creep vibes. And so he started teaching me to play chess, and I actually started to really like him, and the couple, and I really wanted to continue going back to their house and help, like, learning to play chess. Never did. I think that was the last time we ever saw them. But we never moved. Then, one thing I forgot to mention, we actually had a babysitter for a while. Somewhere in between the creeper being moved out of the house to me being the parentified child, um, we ended up getting a babysitter, and we went over to her house to be watched. And I loved going over there, but I think I remember distinctly her telling me, "You're the child. You're not supposed to do anything. I'm watching you. You're not watching anybody else. You're not responsible for doing that. You can just be who you are." I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, so I kind of just, like, it wasn't until her son had actually come back from being at his dad's that I felt like I had some place to be, because we were playing video games. And that was my first introduction to video games, was playing with her son. And that was the time that I was allowed to be a kid. I wasn't responsible for anybody. I wasn't a parent. Like, it makes me want to cry because it was the first time all I was a kid, and somebody was taking care of me. It was the only time in my life where I wasn't taking care of somebody. Any interaction I ever had after that, I was always taking care of somebody. And even before that, including my mother emotionally, because she couldn't handle any kind of criticism. And it was really fucking crazy to me, because it's just like, and I felt so comfortable. And we were friends, and we argued like freaking friends. And like, my babysitter happened to make the joke that we argued like an old married couple. And I asked my mom later on why, you know, why she, like, why we stopped going to see that babysitter. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, we needed to move because she was trying to, basically pair you and her son up. Because, God forbid anybody that I like, I get to stick around." So then we moved. Okay. And we moved in with one of my aunts. That was where I actually lost my dog. I'll get into that another time. But I made a friend there, and that was actually the first friend whose house I went over to, but that was only one time, and I never did it again after that, because the mom was diagnosed bipolar, and my mom was just like, "No, because you won't be able to deal with her mood swings and all of that shit." And I was like, "But her daughter, like, is we're cool." And yeah, so then we ended up moving again. Then I found my twin in middle school after that, like after going to middle school for a whole year, we moved again. And then again to halfway across the country when I had that whole friendship that has nothing has ever touched that friendship my whole life. And we moved away from her. And I feel like that was intentional. Like, from my perspective, looking through those eyes, it feels intentional. Because then back to freaking Missouri, and I hated it. I hated it there. There was no sun. It was always wet. It was always cold. Like, at first, it was great because it's like our first experience with fucking snow. But then, it was absolute a fucking nightmare. I hated the people there too. They're so fucking miserable. Like, that's not even just a fucking pun on the name of the damn state. They were fucking miserable and I hated them. All of them. I hated being there. I didn't vibe with hardly anybody, and when I finally did, it was because I ignored all the bad parts of them. Yeah. And it always seemed like we moved away from anybody that I liked. And as I was getting older and more independent, I almost would guarantee that, somebody in my family would have taught me to drive or taught me to be independent of my mother. Some way, shape, or form, they probably would have convinced her. And I feel like that's why we really ended up moving so far away. And I was just like, this fucking sucks. I actually hated that place. And I hated that I was away from my twin. And it's fucked up because one of the reasons why I hate lies is because we went back to Florida to visit for like spring break, and I was told that I couldn't because we were going to go see my Mima, my great grandmother. And we ended up not seeing her anyway. And I kept getting stalled. I was asking over and over again because I really wanted to see my twin. This was my last chance to fucking see her. And they stalled me in a fucking circle until it was nighttime. And it was too dangerous to leave because the area that my aunt lived in at the time was not a safe one. And that's why I hate when people don't give me direct answers. And I hate when they just talk circles or like say, oh, I don't know. Yes or fucking no. Because I want to go. I want to do something fun. We stayed inside that fucking house the entire spring break. It wasn't even a house, it was an apartment, a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. And we stayed inside because it was too dangerous to actually be outside. And my twin would have come and picked me up. So that pissed me off that spring break because then we were driving back and I hadn't even seen her. And I hadn't even seen my grandmother either. And to be completely honest, I felt really guilty because I didn't want to see my grandmother. I would rather have seen my twin. And I felt really bad because my great grandmother actually ended up passing away after that. But I'll get into the guilt over her death in another fucking video. But yeah, that's it for now.